Paul Ryan is the new Speaker of the House. Yes, the congressman from Wisconsin, former vice presidential candidate, and cheesehead. And yes, I can say that. Well, he's taking over, but what does that mean for you? Congressman Jason Chaffetz joins us from Capitol Hill. Good evening, Congressman.
Hey, thanks, Greta.
So what difference is it going to make to have this new Speaker of the House?
There's a new sense of optimism. We're off to a fresh start, and I think you'll see the internal process more inclusive of members across the board. And as you improve that process, I think you get a better product at the end. We just voted on a bill this week. I voted no on a bill that really should have never come up the way that it did. And I think Paul Ryan understands that, as being a rank and file member, being a two-time committee chairman. He is committed to changing that process, and we better get a better result, and I think we will.
You know, one of the things he made reference to in his speech today was that that committees are going to write the legislation. Is that a big difference?
It's a total huge change. As the chairman of the Oversight Committee, one of the first things leadership did was try to pull a bill up to the floor, bypassing my committee. I held the line and said, no, I have to go through committee. But I got to believe that a Speaker Ryan would never even take that approach at the beginning. And I think that's why you see this big sea change and a lot of smiling faces from rank and file members in changing that process. I'm excited for it.
Speaking of smiling faces, Governor Mitt Romney was there with his wife, and he tweeted a picture, which we have. There it is. That is with the Paul Ryan's wife, and there's Governor and Mrs. Romney. That was fun. All right, this speech. I mean, these are wonderful days. These are fun. People call for everyone. Let's work together and everything. But are they? Will there be that? I mean, are Democrats more interested in talking, and Republicans more interested in talking to each other?
Well, I hope so. I mean, I want to come up with as much bipartisan work as we can, but as we take this new, fresh approach, you got to remember, we were elected to move an agenda that includes some tax reform, holding people accountable, making sure that our military is properly cared for, fixing the VA. These are going to take some aggressive action. And then what I'm really excited about with Paul Ryan is taking that fight to the Senate, because I think Paul is one of the most articulate members we have. He's shown that he can work with Democrats and hold the line on our agenda and try to push Mitch McConnell in the right direction, so we actually put bills on the president's desk. That has not been happening.
All right, well, I'm very interested in at least people talking to each other, and I'll tell you some rather disturbing news. The Agenda Project, which I didn't know much about, a nonprofit group that's founded by someone who's on the board of advisors of Public Diplomacy Collaborative at Kennedy School at Harvard. In the middle of Paul Ryan's speech, they send out a fundraiser, and in the fundraising letter they call it far-right extremists, seniors need to be scared, granny off the cliff video. I mean, they're coming full force saying that Paul Ryan is going to do all these horrible things. This is fundraising during his speech where he's calling for bipartisan Republicans and Democrats to speak to each other.
I heard somebody say there's the establishment in Washington, D.C., then there's the established anti-establishment agenda out there. There are people who feed on this frenzy. They try to profit on some of this ill will. It is fundamentally wrong. As somebody at home, beware of these things that are trying to blow up this process. Let's fight on issues, but to immediately engage and start calling Paul Ryan, try to tear him down, that's not productive. And what you heard from Paul Ryan in his speech is, let's come together, have vigorous debate, but then let's vote. And look, Republicans have the majority. We got to push that agenda and those bills not only to the Senate, but then on to the president.
Well, it's just sort of interesting. Well, he hadn't even finished his speech, and they're already on the attack. And, you know, they could have at least waited to see what happens. They waited at least 2 hours. Anyway, Mr. Chairman, nice to talk to you, and we'll be watching Congress very carefully to see how things go. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Greta.